Now, there still might be one game left to play in Game Week 20. However, I've asked my FPL experts for their top transfer recommendations ahead of Game Week 21. And in today's video, we're going to be running through the players that they've recommended and giving my honest feedback. Now, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 12,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing support. So the first two players that were recommended by my FPL experts were both defenders, and both very, very interesting picks, I think, with good fixtures coming up for both Crystal Palace and Newcastle over the next few weeks. Really, really highly rated on the 11-5 clean sheet model as well, both of these sides. I think both of these players, with the attacking potential they've got, could be absolutely incredible picks. Now, Lewis Hall, personally, I don't own him, but he's doing a lot of damage to my rank at the moment anytime that Newcastle keep a clean sheet. And as you can see down the bottom, the next three fixtures are very, very delicious from a defensive perspective. Two of those being at home as well. You would imagine that at St James's Park, Newcastle should be a little bit more solid and together. They obviously, before the Spurs game, kept 4 clean sheets in a row as well. So really, really good defensive numbers going into this. Like I said, the 11-5 model as well is also doing really well. And Lewis Hall is a massive, massive threat to a lot of people's rank. So maybe getting him in ahead of this really, really good fixture run could be the sensible move, because as you can see here, he's also providing really, really good underlying data as well. Still getting a few shots off in the box, but it's more around the passes for him. And I think that's why, if you are looking for a Newcastle defender and looking away into that kind of defence for their good fixtures coming up, I'm in agreement with my FPL experts here. I think Lewis Hall is a cracking player to be going and picking up. Of course, Botman did return from injury as well, and at 4.4 he could be a cheaper way into that Newcastle defence if you did want to go down that route as well. But I'm in complete agreement with this one. I think Lewis Hall is a fantastic pickup from my FPL experts. Same goes with Daniel Munoz as well. He's a player that I bought in last game week. He's really, really frustrated me the past few weeks, but if you listen to the Crystal Palace games or watch any of the Palace games, a lot of the attacks usually start with him or end with him. He's involved in quite a lot of their play. As you can see down the bottom as well, they've got some absolutely cracking fixtures coming up of Crystal Palace, and they really need to start picking up some points as well if they do want to shift themselves away from that relegation zone. And as you can see, he's more about shots in the box. As you can see here, dominating Lewis Hall for those, and I do think it is going to be very, very soon that we do see a Daniel Munoz mega haul. If Palace manage to somehow keep a clean sheet, then of course he goes and scores in one of these games. He's getting into the right positions. There was a glorious opportunity that he missed 2 game weeks ago where the ball's literally on the line 2 yards away, just still couldn't manage to finish it. So he's going to keep getting into those positions, keep getting into these opportunities. I know his data doesn't look as great as Lewis Hall's, but it's still pretty decent. And if you look at his his underlying data per 90, it is very, very good. It's up there. He's within the top 3 defenders within the game as well. I think he's only behind Trent and Gvardiol as well. So that's the quality he's in, and you're getting this guy into your side for 4.7 million. So again, in complete agreement with my FPL experts on this one. Let's move on then, sticking with the Crystal Palace theme. It is going to be Jean-Philippe Mateta as well, obviously scoring yesterday against Chelsea to level that game up. Obviously Eze putting it on a plate for him. As you can see, the data over the past 5 game weeks, it's been pretty decent. 1.54 XG, only 1 goal, but plenty of shots, plenty of those coming in the box as well. And as we can see, a little bit more elongated fixture list here, not just those first 3, but I would say there, the next 4, you're playing some of the worst defences in the league in terms of XG conceded columns. Leicester right down there, can't buy a win for love nor money at the moment. West Ham as well, another team that are getting absolutely peppered. They're again right down there on the XG conceded chart. So are Brentford as well. I know they've been doing quite well this season, but still one of the worst defences in the league for XG conceded. United every single week are slowly starting to get into that bottom 5 as well, with the batterings that they're receiving as well. Everton on this list is probably going to be Crystal Palace's hardest fixture from an attacking perspective, and I think a lot of us are quite fed up with Jackson, and maybe we're looking for an alternative striker, and I think Jean-Philippe Mateta could be that man, and I think my experts have pretty much hit the nail on the head with this one. I think Jean-Philippe Mateta could be a great little decent pickup. Now, of course, The only problem I would say with him is sometimes he does come off early. That's something we're starting to see a little bit more with Jean-Philippe Mateta. However, I do feel like he could get himself back to the form that we saw at the end of last season, where he was pretty much unplayable, and if you didn't have him in your side, he was going to do some absolute damage into your rank. Of course, he's currently under 5% owned, so now is probably the time to look to invest in him. Like I said, he is going to be playing some of the worst defences in the league, as are Crystal Palace. They need points. This could be a great period to obviously jump on their assets. Obviously, we're going to talk about Eze and Sarr a little bit later, but yeah, I think Jean-Philippe Mateta could be a great Jackson replacement if you're fed up of him, if you've had enough, or maybe if you've still not shifted on Matheus Cunha as well. Obviously, the Wolves fixtures, I know he's got rid of his suspension now, but the Wolves fixtures are still pretty niche, to be honest. And maybe if you are looking for that replacement, like I said, Jean-Philippe could be your man. Let's move on then to the midfield areas. Now, I was bombarded by my FPL experts with midfielder picks this week. I do feel like this position has kind of come back into its forte a little bit. The kind of mid-priced midfielders all starting to deliver over the past few weeks and starting to kind of cement themselves back into the game with some decent fixture runs coming up. Obviously, let's talk about Eze and, of course, Sarr as the first two. But I didn't put Sarr on this list because he wasn't recommended, but Eze was. Of course, picking up that assist, and he's actually got one of the lowest expected goal involvement per 90s on this list, which isn't something that we usually expect to see from Eze. And if you look at his past 3 game weeks, however, they've all been around 0.65 in terms of expected goal involvement. So there's been a big increase. Now, the Fantasy Football Hub model as well absolutely loves this guy. It always rates him extremely highly. And I think with these fixtures, like I said, from an attacking perspective, Palace could do exceptionally well. The only problem I do have with Eze is he's a little bit of a troll, isn't he? And some people might be saying, well, why don't we go for Sarr? Sarr's data is also pretty decent as well and could save you a hefty chunk of cash that, you know, the assistant manager chip is rolling around the corner. We might want to be saving a little bit of that cash for using that chip as well, with some potential double game weeks on the line as well in 24 or 25 as well for Liverpool and Everton. So, is it going to be worth spending that extra money to Eze to Sarr? I personally don't think so right now. Now, I know Eze got the assist yesterday, but if you look at the 2s per 90 data, there's not too much to split between the two. Eze as well, sometimes on penalties, sometimes not on penalties. Like, it's not really 100% clear and obvious. So I think if I was to pick right now, I probably would select Sarr over Eze. But let me know which way you'd go down that one down in the comments below. Anthony Gordon, I said it a few weeks ago. I included it in my transfer targets video. I said this lad is an absolutely exceptional natural finisher. Great run coming up for Newcastle. They're in really, really good form. Really dominating the charts in terms of XG created. If we look at the 11-5 data as well, they're also looking really, really good in terms of XG kind of or goal what am I trying to say here? Goals going forward as well. Goal projections, there we go, for the next 5 game weeks as well. So for me, again, feels like a very, very good buy-in, to be honest. A lot of people were asking me yesterday, which one would you prefer to go for, Bryan Mbeumo or Anthony Gordon? I said Anthony Gordon for the next 3 fixtures, to be honest. Obviously, City and Liverpool, not really ideal for Bryan Mbeumo. I do feel like his hop-on point is going to be game week 23. City have been pretty woeful, and Brentford do have quite a positive record against Manchester City as well. However, it is that Liverpool game in 22 with their strong defensive numbers, of course being the best side for XG conceded in the Premier League, that I do feel like it is probably going to be worth taking a gamble on Anthony Gordon with 2 home fixtures, then Southampton away in 23, rather than going for Bryan Mbeumo right at this moment. However, both of these guys are putting up phenomenal numbers in terms of their expected goal involvement per 90. Of course, though, Bryan Mbeumo does have that penalty appeal and clearly plays full 90 minutes as well. Gordon sometimes can be subject to some early substitutions, but like I said, if I had to pick between the one or two right now, I would be picking Anthony Gordon for me. I think he's been absolutely sensational. I'm gutted I don't have a route to go and get him. I decided to keep Bruno Fernandes. Maybe that's a little bit of a mistake from my part. However, I might be looking to go and get Anthony Gordon into my side because he is looking exceptional at the moment, as are Newcastle as well. Really, really flourishing. Great fixtures coming up, and like I said, really fancied from the 11FI model as well. Next up, sticking with that Newcastle theme, it is going to be Jacob Murphy. Of course, if you can't stretch to Anthony Gordon, I've had some people ask me, is Jacob Murphy a decent alternative? And I was a little bit kind of cold on Jacob Murphy at the start, and I've started to warm a little bit more to him because his minutes have started to increase. He's now starting to probably play, I would say, between 75 and 85 minutes rather than where he was a few weeks ago, where it was around 60 to 70. So his minutes have increased, which is great to see. His data output as well has still slightly got better. There's obviously one fixture, the Aston Villa fixture, where it is kind of making up a large proportion of his underlying data, maybe making him look a little bit better of a player than he is. However, it does seem like he is in that starting 11. They're not going to change a winning formula. So maybe if you can't stretch to Anthony Gordon, Murphy could be a decent alternative as well. Not too much to split between the two as well in terms of predicted points from the Fantasy Football Hub model as well. And then the final player that was spoke about within my experts chat was, of course, Morgan Rogers, a player that's just ticked on very, very nicely. A lot of us got rid of him for the flashy new toys of Enzo or Ahmed. Those haven't really worked out, but Rogers has been just consistently flowing. Of course, missed the game this weekend, but I think that could be a little bit of a blessing in disguise. Gives him a rest into a very, very busy period for Aston Villa coming up. Of course, they've got Champions League, FA Cup as well. I think the Champions League they're going to put a lot of priority on as well over the next few weeks. Of course, you would have to probably bench him in the Arsenal game, but Everton and West Ham, pretty decent fixtures. I spoke about West Ham's recent woes as well in terms of their their defensive numbers as well. So I think that's an absolutely great fixture. And again, if you are in the market for a budget player that plays very, very consistent minutes, puts up good numbers, and plays for one of the best or better sides in the league, I don't think you can really go wrong with Morgan Rogers, to be honest. I know he's not the flashiest or the newest toy because a lot of us have already got him or already owned him, but he's just consistent and he just does it very, very well. And I think next year he'll probably be valued around 7 million, and nobody will even blink an eye kind of paying that because he's been very, very consistent this year. As you can see, putting up similar goal involvement numbers to Jacob Murphy, Anthony Gordon more than Eze, and only 6 behind Brian and Mbeumo. But Brian's been a little bit, of course, astronomical this season. So those were my transfer recommendations from my FPL experts. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments below. Are there any players that they've maybe made you think about or potentially take a little bit of a punt on? Of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel today, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one, and good luck in Game Week 21.